Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Shutters and Speed. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. It's a beautiful bike, and we have a beautiful lady here who's the owner of this wonderful machine in front of us. So what's not to like? So, as we say here in Norfolk, we'll run them their titles, boy, and get into what we're up to today aboard this beautiful machine. Yeah, so welcome back to Shutters and Speed. Yeah, regular viewers of the channel will know that I've had a go on one or two classic motorbikes from the 70s, and the one missing from my ride is the ubiquitous overhead cam Honda CB750. And Noni here has kindly agreed to allow me to have a go on it and take it out for a spin. But I thought initially, as ever on these occasions, we would have a chat with the owner and get some idea as to why she bought it and what she's done to it, and also what she intends to do with it in the future. So Noni, how did you acquire this bike in the first place?
It was on a whim, really. I've always liked the look of them. Pretty. I kind of buy bikes on look mainly. Not really ideal, but yeah, so I like the look of them. A reliable classic, so I knew I wasn't going to have to kick it. I've got a Dnieper, so I have to kick that. So that was kind of another thing that, you know, made me want to buy it.
Okay. So you know, the practicality of it was the issue, really.
Yeah.
You want a good, usable, easy to use classic.
Yeah.
Well, they don't come much easier to use than these. It has to be said. So since you've had it, have you had many things done to it at all?
So my friend Clive Rees, very good engineer. He's got several bikes. He's got 3 or 4 of these. I met him at Whitwell, actually. Really good bike meet. He took the bike, had it a few months, and he's done the tappets, gap, checked those. He's done the cam chain, adjusted that. He's put new bars on it. He's balanced the carbs. So he's give it a good once over. So it runs really well. Yeah, it's a good, reliable bike.
So you haven't made many changes other than maintenance to it?
No. Just maintenance, really. I mean, it's a pretty standard bike, you know. We think it's a K7. It was imported in '97 in the UK.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah.
Hence why it's got the 4x4 pipes, because they're quite often you find these bikes with 4x1. Yeah. Which doesn't look as nice.
No.
It's very quiet. I mean, if that appeals to you, I like loud bikes, but yeah, really nice, reliable bike.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can remember back in the day. I mean, back in the early '80s, as my viewers will probably remember, I had a Honda CB900, which was the double overhead cam version. Yeah. But I can remember having the opportunity to buy a single overhead cam. I think it was an F2, which was the more sportier version of this, and later. But I decided I wanted to go for the more modern, you know, like you do, double overhead cam, and so I went with that. But I've often looked at these, and another chap I knew had one of these with the 4x4 exhaust on, and I thought that looked epic, to be honest. It really did. And so for you to turn up here with one like this that has the 4x4 exhaust is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So, you know, that's great to see. So what you got planned for it now then?
You know, I've got my eye on other bikes. I'm not gifted with money or space. So I'd like to, you know, give it a new home. I've had it over a year. I've given it a good go.
So it's ready to move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's quite interesting. I mean, you know, a lot of people do that, don't they? They buy something, they run it for a year or so, and then they move it on. And I think whoever happens to, you know, get this in the future has got a really good looking, reliable, usable classic, haven't they? Yeah. You know, for probably a reasonable price, but we won't go into that. But you know, suffice it to say, it is for sale if you're interested. So you know, get in touch if you think you might be interested in purchasing this. So I think that's given a pretty good insight into the bike and the owner. So the next question, of course, is how will she ride? But before we do go out for a ride, as ever in these situations, let's have a look around this beautiful machine in some detail. So here we are out and about on the Honda CB750 from about 1977. And what do you think then, shutters? Well, as ever, the early signs are good. The one thing that is immediately apparent, and we've only been going for a few minutes, is the beautifully slick gear change. It really is quite slick. It's probably well worn over the years, which has helped, but it is nice and positive. The ride over these bumpy Fendon roads is quite good. It's nice and plush and comfortable, but it still seems sort of in control, as it were. It's not wallowing or pitching much, and it is really singing along here quite nicely. I mean, I'm not going along here at breakneck speed, obviously. I'm doing about, what, 35, 40 miles an hour, but the ride seems plush and yet well controlled. It's got a beautifully soft, spongy, comfy seat, which is extremely comfortable, and you get the feeling that you could ride this thing for mile after mile and not really suffer any discomfort, as it were. So that's obviously a good start, as it were. We haven't had a chance to test the brakes yet, and no doubt we'll find they might be a bit lacking compared to modern machinery, as ever, as we've found. But you know, I don't think you're going to be going along at breakneck speed on one of these anyway, especially nowadays. So that's not necessarily an important factor. As ever, you know, when you're out and about, you know, good forward observation is obviously paramount. Yeah, so we're coming up to this junction, and we're about to take a ride through another series of bumpy fen roads, and we're off. Yeah, it's just going through that little bend there, only at 30 miles an hour, but you know, went through the others and out the other side without any real fuss. Here we go again. Ooh. Yeah, forgot about that one coming, so we'll probably edit that bit out. But yes, that it seems to react quite nicely. Here's another series of bends. That is always a good test for a bike like this. And it goes in and out without any fuss at all, and really is quite slick, and everything is hunky-dory. We're going along quite nicely. I have found the brakes are a little lacking, but you know, they do the job. We stop, so that's the important thing. And that we're now right out in the middle of the teeth of the Fenland countryside, and you know, when you sort of go along on something like this, it feels like a gentleman's cruiser. Or more than a sort of a bullet type thing, and you know, that's quite nice to know. You know, you can cruise along here quite nicely, soaking up the bumps, and everything is hunky-dory. It really is. I know that Noni mentioned in the introduction that she's had this bike now for a year and or so, and is now thinking that maybe it's time to move on and get something else. And of course, you know, that's great. You know, people are moving bikes on from one person to the next. Somebody else will get the chance to enjoy this, and she'll obviously get the chance to try something else. We haven't all got bottomless pits of money, so we have to keep things moving sometimes if we want to enjoy life and motorcycles to the full. But you know, it's you know, it's a great thing to have, and you know, I have to say I'm sort of having a great time here. Wonderful sort of thing to have a ride on, and it just goes well, you know, pulls. You know, you may well be asking, how does it compare, Shutters, to the previous ones you've had? Well, it doesn't feel quite as pokey maybe as a GT750, the two-stroke, which is an obvious comparison because back in the day they were competitors. So you had a 3-cylinder two-stroke or a 4-cylinder four-stroke. The 750 two-stroke is a little bit more involving to ride, I guess. But this one is very much like as I said earlier, a bit of a cruiser. It feels as though, you know, you could just sit and ride this thing all day. I think the GT750 was very much the same in that respect. It was comfortable to ride, so I suppose you could argue there's not a huge amount of difference in the bikes, and you know what they have to offer, as it were. But you know, it's just a great joy to be able to take these out and have a little spin on something so nostalgic. And of course, this will bring back so many memories for people who have owned and ridden these before, and you know, and enjoyed them. It has to be said. So hopefully you're enjoying the ride as much as I am. We're now going to, as ever, we've sort of get off the bumpy section. We're going to take on a faster section of road to see how she goes when we open the taps up a bit. Actually, you know, if you look far enough ahead and you can see what's going to happen and don't let things creep up on you, I have to say the brakes are more than adequate, yeah, which is obviously a good thing. She's ticking along quite nicely here and feels good. Engine feels well sorted. Noni did mention in the build-up the chap who maintains it for her, and he's obviously done a very good job because she's very tractable and is pulling cleanly from just about anywhere in the rev range. So it's obviously been well looked after, well sorted, and is going really nicely. Are there any negatives that you can think of then, Shutters? Well, you know, I know they were talking about the throttle response, and the throttle does feel a little tight maybe, so maybe a bit of adjustment might be needed there again. I know Mick and Noni were having to play with that before we came out, but you know, it's not too bad, and we're still going along quite nicely. And it almost acts, you know, on the plus side, it acts like a sort of almost like a cruise control. You don't have to worry about the throttle sort of modulating as such, and you're losing speed. So you can hold a constant speed quite nicely. And I have to say, we're going around this Fen road now, and we're only doing 40 miles an hour, but you know, you can just weave in and out of these roads without any problem at all. And when we'll soon be coming into a national speed limit, so we can open the taps a bit to see how she does perform. Hello, sir. One of the great joys of being a YouTuber is that you know, when people are really willing to let you have a ride on their machines. We're at a national speed limit now, so let's give it some go. Here we go. Yep, she's getting up to speed quite nicely. Absolutely flying along, doing well. You know, I'm not going to give this too much caning, as it were. One has to remember this thing is nearly 50 years old or thereabouts, so you have to treat it with a little bit of respect, I feel. And also, you're out and about on somebody's pride and joy, and you have to bear that in mind when you're being allowed to ride these machines. But I have to say, I'm really enjoying this lovely little jaunt out on this wonderful 750 single overhead cam machine. So coming into a 40 and slowing down. A few people out and about on their bikes, and this road is you know, quite a nice one to have a go on, so to speak. I did just notice back there that when you take you know, some imperfections on the road, it doesn't like these cracks in the road too much, and it does just we even wobble a bit when you hit one of them, but it's not too disconcerting, shall we say, and everything seems quite good. Yeah, I feel this road along here is a really good test of any bike like this to see how she handles and performs, and this one has gone very well. It really has. The handling through these bends is really predictable, you know, and you know, there's not a lot to dislike. There really isn't. But the overriding thing that I'll take away from this is the way it comfortably takes you along effortlessly along any A road. You know, you could swing through any bendy road with ease with this thing, so it's fantastic. Yeah, so we're making our way back to give this fantastic bike back to its lucky owner. And what are your final thoughts then, Shutters? Well, I have to say I've had a ball. It's handled these roads quite nicely. It is a really plush, comfortable ride, and it goes quite well too. So, you know, there's not a lot to dislike. The only thing I would say that was slightly disconcerting was the way it tracked on some of the cracks on some of these fen roads, which gave you a bit of a moment there for a second or two. But it wasn't. It didn't get you into a sort of a tank slap or anything silly like that. And once you know, if you know it's coming, you can counteract that, and it soon becomes the norm. So obviously that's great news. But I have to say I've had a ball as ever. You know, as I've said many times before, you know, I can't thank these people enough to let somebody like me out on their pride and joy and have a ride on it, as it were. So I'm going to put the bike through its paces through these bends once again and just enjoy the ride. You know, it's been a fantastic experience, and I'd just like to say thanks to Noni for allowing me to have a go on this beautiful, beautiful machine. Well, Noni, what a ride that was. I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed that, and thank you so much for allowing me to have a spin. It has now ticked the boxes. I've done a GT750 Suzuki, which is obviously the two-stroke, and now I've done a single overhead cam Honda 750, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for allowing me to have a go on this bike and take it out for a spin, and let everybody know what it's like to own and ride something like this, which is fantastic. And I'd also like to thank you for watching, and I do hope that you've enjoyed this video. So without further ado, I think we will call a halt to proceedings here and now. So if you've enjoyed this video, I would hope that you would like and subscribe. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Noni.
Bye.
And it's goodbye from me. And as ever, as we say here in Norfolk, do you keep on a troshin', boy. Noni. I'm a bugger with names at the moment. Noni. Okay. Well, good morning, Start again, Steve. That's a good start. Do you keep on a troshin', boy? Well, make sure that's okay.
Oh, funny.
I was waiting for you to do an Evel Knievel.
Yeah, whee!
Yeah.
Yeah, just check it.
Yeah, so I think... start again, Stephen. Where do we go? Yeah, so without further ado, I think we will call a halt to proceedings here and now. Brilliant.
Cool.
That'll do nicely.
Great.
Will that pick up my footsteps?
No. No, because all the microphone stuff is with us.
Okay.
Yeah.